Story number 1, the closing shift. I used to work the night shift at a KFC just off the highway. It wasn't the worst job I ever had. The pay was whatever, but I liked the quiet that came with the late hours. No screaming kids, no rush hour lines, just me, the buzzing lights, and the occasional customer rolling through for a late bite. We closed at 11 p.m., but I usually stayed until around midnight, counting the register, mopping the floor, and checking inventory. Some nights, it felt like a ritual more than a job. Lock the front doors, clean in silence, wrap things up, and leave. It was a Thursday, mid-October. I remember that clearly because the air outside was finally starting to cool, and we had that weak autumn smell coming through the front doors every time they opened, like dry leaves and a bit of damp earth. The store had been dead all night. 1 or 2 people came in earlier, nothing memorable. Around 10:45 p.m., a guy walked in, skinny, pale, maybe late 40s. He wore a beige windbreaker zipped all the way up to his chin and kept his hands in the pockets. No smile, no small talk. Just walked up to the counter and asked for a bucket of original recipe. His voice was low and flat, but not rude. I rang him up, gave him his order, and he nodded. No thank you. He turned and sat in the far corner of the dining room, back against the glass, facing the counter. Normally, people don't eat inside that late. Most grab their food and leave. It felt odd, but I didn't think much of it at the time. I just wanted to finish up and go home. By 11:05, the place was empty except for him. I wiped down the front counter, glancing his way every few minutes. He hadn't touched the food, just sat there, no phone, no drink, staring forward. I started mopping. The wet floor made that soft, dragging sound with every push. I moved slowly, listening to the hum of the fridges, the soft tick of the wall clock. The guy didn't move. I tried not to look at him, but you know how it is. Your eyes wander. Every time I glanced over, he was in the same exact position. Didn't blink. Didn't shift. It was like he was posing for something. And when I finished the floor, I walked behind the counter and peeked at the security screen we had mounted above the sink. 4 feeds, 1 for each angle of the dining room. That corner where he sat should have been visible in 2 of them, but he wasn't there. I frowned and looked through the glass window of the counter. Still there. I turned back to the monitor. Still not on the feed. I blinked, leaned in, refreshed the view by tapping the side button. Nothing. The booth was empty. The feed was live. At least the little red dot said so. I stepped out from behind the counter, slowly, not really sure why I felt so careful, just a weird feeling in my gut. The air suddenly felt heavier, like everything around me had thickened a bit. The man was still sitting there. I could see him clear as day. He finally moved, his head tilted a little to the side, like he was listening to something. Then slowly, very slowly, he turned to look directly at me. I froze. I wasn't scared. Not yet. But something in the way he moved, like it was too smooth, too rehearsed, made my stomach twist. I gave a small, polite nod. "We're closing up now, sir," I said. No response. I stood there for a few seconds, then glanced at the clock. 11:23. I walked toward him, keeping my pace steady. I didn't want to seem nervous. "Hey, sorry, but we're closed. I'll have to ask you to head out." Still nothing. His eyes didn't blink. Just locked on mine, flat and dull. There was no light behind them, not anger, not confusion, just vacancy. I backed off and walked behind the counter again. My hands were shaking a little now. I picked up the store phone and dialed my supervisor. She didn't pick up. I stared at the silent screen, then hung up. I didn't know what to report anyway. That a guy wouldn't leave? That he wasn't showing up on the cameras? I looked back at the monitor. He was gone. I whipped my head toward the dining room. Gone. The booth was empty. No trace of him. No food. Nothing. I walked over slowly. My footsteps felt louder than usual. The booth was clean. No crumbs. No grease. Just 2 unused napkins folded neatly at the center of the table. I scanned the floor, the windows, even looked out into the parking lot. Not a soul in sight. No car, no footsteps, nothing. I figured maybe I missed him walking out while I was on the phone. I convinced myself of that. Just enough to finish closing. I turned off the lights, one by one, leaving the main kitchen light on last. Before locking up, I did one final check of the dining area. That's when I saw it. A smudge on the glass door, right at face level. It looked like lips, greasy, cracked, and faintly red, like someone had pressed their mouth to the glass. But here's the thing, it was on the inside. The doors hadn't been touched since I mopped. I had cleaned the glass earlier, wiped everything spotless. This wasn't there 5 minutes ago. I didn't clean it. I just stared at it, heart picking up speed. I locked up and left the lights on. The next morning, I came in for the early shift to check the security footage. I told my supervisor the camera might have glitched during close. I scrubbed through the footage from 10:30 to midnight. No man, no order. No one walked in after 10:30. At 10:47 p.m., I'm on camera taking an order at the register, but there's no one in front of me. I'm speaking, typing, and bagging food to thin air. Then I walk to the dining area and start mopping, alone, talking to someone who isn't there. At 11:20, I pause and stare at the corner booth, nodding like I'm having a conversation. But the booth is empty. The last thing I saw before I stopped watching was me walking toward the camera with that weird expression, the one you make when your brain hasn't caught up with what your eyes just saw. I never told anyone else about it, but every now and then, if I drive past that KFC late at night, I slow down. And sometimes I swear I see someone sitting in that far booth, not moving, not blinking, just watching, waiting, like he never left. Story number 2, drive-through eyes. I used to work the late shift at a KFC just outside a quiet suburb. Nothing fancy, just one of those standalone spots tucked between a gas station and a shut-down video rental store. Most nights were slow after 9 p.m. Just a few cars trickling in. People who were too tired to cook, or drivers passing through. I liked the late shift. Less noise, less mess, just the soft hum of the fryers, the occasional beep of the warmer, and the steady rhythm of routine. I didn't mind the stillness. The drive-through was where I spent most of my time. It felt easier than dealing with people face to face. You hear a voice, see a car, hand over the food. No lingering, no awkward small talk. Just in and out. But there was one night, about 6 months ago, that still plays in my head more than I'd like to admit. It started like any other night. I clocked in at 6, cleaned the soda machine, stocked the sauce packets, and chatted with Maria, the shift lead, until she left at 10. After that, it was just me and Liam in the kitchen. He barely talked, which I was fine with. We settled into our usual rhythm. He'd prep the food, I'd take orders, and handle the window. Around 10:30, I took an order from a young couple. They were laughing about something when they pulled up, probably high. They paid in crumpled bills, grabbed their food, and drove off. Windows still down. After that, it got quiet again. Then, around 10:50, the headset crackled. It startled me, honestly. I hadn't even heard a car pull in. "Welcome to KFC. Go ahead with your order when you're ready," I said, adjusting the mic. No response. I glanced at the screen. The sensor had picked up a vehicle. I waited. Still nothing. I repeated the greeting. Silence. I leaned slightly out the window and squinted toward the menu board. It was hard to see, but there was a car. An old one. The headlights were dim, yellowish, and low to the ground. The shape looked boxy, something from the 90s. Maybe a Buick. I could just make out the silhouette of someone sitting behind the wheel. He didn't say anything, didn't move. I waited another 30 seconds before asking if he needed more time. Nothing. Eventually, I gave up and reset the order screen. I figured maybe the mic in his car was busted, or he changed his mind. I watched through the side mirror as the car slowly pulled away. Didn't order, didn't come to the window, just rolled out of the lot and back onto the street. Weird, but not unheard of. 15 minutes passed. Liam had gone into the back to restock frozen wings. I was alone at the front when the headset crackled again. Same sound, same car. I could tell right away. The headlights were the same color and shape. Same slow approach. The vehicle crept up to the speaker box and stopped. "Welcome to KFC. Go ahead with your order." Silence. Again. I felt that pinch of unease right at the base of my spine, like a quiet alarm going off, but I tried to shake it off. I leaned out again. Same driver. I couldn't see his face clearly. Just the outline. Head straight, both hands on the wheel. I asked if he needed anything. Still nothing. I waited a bit longer, then hit the reset. The car pulled away, just like before. That time, I watched it all the way out of the lot. The taillights faded into the street. I mentioned it to Liam when he came back, but he just shrugged. "Probably drunk," he muttered, tossing a box of frozen tenders into the bin. I thought about calling it in, but what would I even say? Some guy won't order chicken? Just after 11:20, the headset buzzed again. I didn't even say anything this time. I looked straight at the monitor. Same car, same position, still no voice. This time, I didn't lean out. I stayed still, barely breathing, staring at the fuzzy monitor screen. My ears strained for any sound, music, an engine, anything, but there was nothing but a low static hum through the headset. I whispered, "Can you hear me?" Silence. Then, just barely, I heard a clicking sound. Faint, like nails tapping on plastic. It was so soft, I thought I might have imagined it, but it sent a chill through me anyway. The car rolled away again. I didn't move for a long time after that. Liam noticed. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, just tired." We started our closing routine, cleaned the counters, dumped the old fries. I tried to keep my mind off it, but I kept glancing at the monitor, half expecting it to go off again. At 11:52, it did. This time, I didn't bother with the greeting. I just stared at the screen. Same car. No lights on now. It sat there quiet. No hum of the engine. Just sitting. That was worse somehow. I felt my chest tighten. I walked slowly to the side window and peeked out through the blinds. The car had moved up. It was parked directly in front of the drive-through window. No sound, no movement, just there. I couldn't see the driver's face clearly, but I swear he was staring straight ahead. Not at me, not at the window, just ahead. Blank, like he was waiting for something. I stepped back. The floor creaked under my shoes. Then the lights flickered. Just once. Quick. Liam shouted from the back, asking if the power was going. I didn't answer. I was frozen. The guy was still out there. And for the first time, I felt like he knew I was watching. That kind of quiet, the one that wraps around you and presses in, it got into my skin. After about a minute, the car slowly backed out of the lane. No screeching, no headlights. It drifted into the night like a ghost. I didn't see it leave the lot. It just vanished beyond the edge of the camera frame. We closed and locked up quickly after that. I didn't say much to Liam. The next morning, I came in early. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I asked the morning manager if I could check the security footage. She shrugged and handed me the key. I pulled up the drive-through feed. All night, the car never showed up, not once. There were time stamps for the orders earlier, the young couple, a delivery guy, even Liam going out to throw trash. But nothing during those times I saw that car. The system had logged vehicles on the drive-through sensor, but on playback, the lane was empty. No car, no driver, no taillights, just me, leaning out the window, talking to someone who wasn't there, and then staring right at nothing. I didn't tell anyone else. What could I say? I still work there sometimes. Day shifts, only now. But I've noticed something else. Every few weeks, I see a car parked in the far corner of the lot when I leave. Old, rusty, always the same shape. No headlights, just sitting there, facing the drive-through, not moving. I don't stop. I just walk faster to my car. And every time, when I check the rearview mirror, I swear those same pale eyes are watching me pull away. Story number 3. Number 6 combo. I used to work at a small KFC tucked between a dry cleaner and a pawn shop. The kind of place you pass by 100 times and never notice unless you're hungry and in a rush. It was clean enough, smelled like grease, an old floor cleaner, and the shift wasn't bad once you got used to it. Most of my shifts were in the evenings. I'd clock in around 4, prep sides, wipe down the trays, handle the counter until close. By 8 or 9, it got slow. A few regulars, some families, the occasional guy, just killing time. Nothing strange. At least, not until the man with the number 6 combo started coming in. I remember the first time he showed up because he ordered like he'd done 1,000 times. Number 6 combo, extra biscuit, no drink. He didn't look up while saying it, just stood at the counter, staring slightly past my shoulder. He was pale, maybe mid-40s, wore a faded brown coat that looked a size too big. He had that look like someone who hadn't slept well in years. I rang it up and called it out when it was ready. He sat by the window, far corner booth, and ate slowly. Took small bites like he was chewing through something that hurt. He left the tray neatly stacked. Every time. The next night, same thing. Number 6 combo, extra biscuit, no drink. By the 3rd visit, I already had it ready before he finished ordering. I never saw him come in. He'd just be there, standing at the counter when I looked up, always around 8:34 p.m., not earlier, not later, like clockwork. It became a quiet routine, not exactly creepy, just strange. I tried not to overthink it. Some people live by habits. Maybe he was just lonely or retired or liked the food. Then one night, Something small changed. He ordered the same thing, but this time he looked at me. Not my face, just the thought. My name. Tag. He squinted a little and said, "You're new." I blinked. I'd been there for 6 months. "No," I said. "I've been working here for a while." He didn't answer, just nodded slowly and walked off to his booth. That night he left something behind, a receipt, folded into a tiny square, tucked under the tray. I wouldn't have noticed it, but I was wiping tables and felt the paper sticking to my rag. I unfolded it. Same order. Number 6, combo, extra biscuit, no drink. The timestamp made me pause. It was dated October 17th, 2003, exactly 20 years ago, to the day. I laughed a little, thinking it was a joke. Maybe an old receipt he carried in his wallet. But the paper was crisp, fresh, not yellowed or worn. The ink was sharp, too sharp. I flipped it over. Something was scribbled on the back. He didn't finish. That's all it said. I showed it to Maria the next day. She shrugged and said it was probably some weird prank. Customers do odd things. We tossed the receipt in the trash. But the next night he came again. 8:34 p.m. Ordered the same thing. I watched him eat. Every bite. Methodical. Precise. I don't know why, but I needed to see if he'd finish. He didn't. He left a biscuit untouched on the tray. Then he left. I checked the booth. Same thing. Another folded receipt. This one was dated October 18th, 2003. Same handwriting on the back. Still waiting. That's when something clicked in my head, like a switch flipping. I pulled up our POS system and looked at archived data. We're supposed to keep records for a while, and our manager, out of laziness more than anything, never deleted anything. I searched number 6 combo. Nothing too strange at first, but as I scrolled back, way back, I started seeing a pattern. October 2003. Every night. Same order. Same time. Always entered under the same name. Derek. I didn't know what to do with that. It didn't feel like something I should tell anyone. I just kept it in the back of my mind. The next night, he didn't show up. I waited. Watched the clock tick past 8:34. Nothing. Felt weird to miss him. But at 8:49, the door opened. It was a teenager. Hoodie pulled over his head, looked anxious. He came straight to the counter and said, "Hey, did a guy in a brown coat come in earlier?" I blinked. "Who?" He hesitated. Tall, pale, brown coat, kinda old. Orders number 6, no drink. He's my uncle. I stared at him. "Yeah," I said slowly. "He's been coming in a lot." The kid nodded, almost relieved. "That's good. That's really good." I opened my mouth to ask more, but he was already walking out, didn't order anything, didn't even glance at the menu, just left. Later that night, I checked the cameras. 8:34 p.m. No one came in. No Derek. No one. The booth was empty the whole time. But at 8:49, the kid was on camera, clear as day, asking about someone who, by all accounts, never entered. I didn't sleep well that night. I kept thinking about the receipts, the untouched biscuits, the notes, so I dug deeper. I found a news clipping online. It wasn't easy. Took me a few hours of weird search terms and local archives. October 17th, 2003, a man named Derek Hartwell died of a heart attack while eating at a KFC downtown. Collapsed in the booth, clutching his chest. Left behind a biscuit and a receipt. He'd been with his nephew, who stepped away to the restroom. By the time he came back, Derek was gone. I sat there staring at my screen, heart crawling into my throat. Same order, same time, same booth layout. I printed it out and brought it to work the next night. Showed it to Liam. He read it, then looked at me. You think it's him? I didn't answer. He nodded slowly, then added, "He still doesn't finish the biscuit, huh?" That made me stop. "How do you know that?" Liam looked confused. "You told me. Last week." I didn't. I never told anyone that detail. That night, I stayed late. I watched the booth from the counter. At 8:34, the door creaked open. Derek stepped in. Same coat, same face, same slow walk to the counter. He didn't speak. Just placed crumpled $5 bill on the counter and looked past me. I rang up the order. No one else in the store. No music playing. Just the sound of fries hissing in the oil. I handed him the tray, and he walked to his booth, ate slowly, one bite at a time, and just like before, he left the biscuit untouched. I didn't clean up right away, didn't want to touch the tray. Eventually, I forced myself to walk over. The tray was there, and so was the receipt. Same timestamp, same items, but this time there was no writing on the back, just a faint grease stain shaped like a fingerprint. I looked out the window. The parking lot was empty, and then I realized something. We don't sell a number 6 combo anymore. We changed the menu 2 years ago, but somehow the register still prints it when he orders. It's only on his receipts, only on his. Now, every October, I wait. 8:34 p.m., like always. He comes in, orders the same thing, leaves the biscuit behind, and each year the receipts fade just a little more. I never throw them out anymore. I keep them in a drawer at home. Each one is a reminder that some people have routines they just can't let go of. Even after 20 years, even after everything. I just wonder what happens when he finally finishes the biscuit. Story number 4. Fryer Room Whispers. I used to close up at a KFC that sat just off a quiet road on the edge of town. It wasn't a big location, just one fryer, 2 warmers, and a walk-in freezer that always smelled faintly like cardboard and old oil, the kind of place where nothing exciting ever really happened. I didn't mind the closing shift. It was peaceful in its own way. After the dinner rush, the whole place would slow down, and by 10:30 p.m., the dining room was empty and clean. Just the soft hum of the coolers and the occasional clatter of someone restocking the sauces. There were usually 3 of us, one on drive-through, one cleaning the front, and one stuck in the back with the fryer. I was usually that last one. I never thought much about it. I liked keeping to myself. The fryer room was hot and a little cramped, but it was manageable once you got used to the heat. The walls were yellowed from years of steam and grease. There was a small fan in the corner that did almost nothing, and the lights above were fluorescent, buzzing faintly, flickering every now and then like they couldn't quite decide if they wanted to stay on. It started one Thursday night, and we were cleaning up, wiping down surfaces, shutting things off. The fryers were already drained and cooling. I was standing at the back, scraping gunk off the floor with a metal scraper. I remember it was quiet, almost too quiet. Even the buzzing from the fridge seemed muffled, and that's when I thought I heard something, just a soft, quick whisper, like a word being exhaled too close to my ear. I turned around fast. No one was there. I stepped out into the kitchen. Jasmine was still stacking trays near the sink, and Caleb was sweeping near the front. No one had been behind me. I didn't say anything. It was late. I figured maybe I'd imagined it. Could have been the fryer cooling down, or air moving through the vents. But the next night, it happened again. Same time, same spot. I was bent down, scrubbing near the base of the fryer, when I heard it. A whisper. Closer this time. It didn't sound like a word, just a drawn-out breath. It sent a chill up my spine. Again, no one behind me. I stood there for a moment staring at the fryer. I even checked behind it. Nothing. I brushed it off, told myself, maybe I was just tired, or maybe the kitchen sounds were playing tricks on me, but then it started happening every night. Same place, same faint sound, always when I was alone in the fryer room. It never happened when anyone else was nearby, only when it was just me. After close, when the world outside went still. I stopped telling myself it was the fryer, because one night I heard my name, whispered, not loud, not urgent, just soft, right behind me. Daniel. I dropped the spatula I was holding. It clattered on the tile. I didn't turn around right away. I stood frozen, my chest tight. When I finally did look, the room was empty. I stepped into the kitchen. Jasmine wasn't there. She'd clocked out early that night. Caleb was outside taking trash to the dumpster. I was alone. I didn't sleep well that night. I kept thinking about the way it sounded. My name. But not quite how someone would usually say it. Like it had been repeated too many times, worn down. The next day, I asked Caleb if he ever heard anything in the fryer room. He laughed. Like what? Grease demons? I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. I didn't push it. But I started paying closer attention. I noticed little things. A basket would shift slightly on the counter when no one was near. One night I came back from washing my hands, and the fryer lid was shut. I'd left it open. Another night, I swore I saw a shape in the small window of the freezer door. Just for a second. A blur. Like someone walking by. But no one did. I started to dread that last hour of work. The silence. The way the fryer room seemed to breathe with you. Sometimes I'd hear the whisper as soon as I stepped in. Sometimes it would wait. One night, I left my phone recording on the prep table while I cleaned, just out of curiosity. When I played it back at home, I heard it, around the 20-minute mark. A voice, not mine, not anyone else's, whispering something I couldn't quite make out. And then, clear as day, breathing, right into the microphone. I didn't bring my phone back after that. I didn't want more proof. One night, Jasmine stayed late. She was wiping down the counters while I cleaned the fryer room. I didn't hear the whisper that night, not even once. But as we were leaving, she paused at the door and said something I still think about. That fryer room's weird when it's quiet. Doesn't it feel like someone's watching you? I didn't answer. I just nodded. After that, it got worse. I started hearing the whispers in other parts of the kitchen. Soft, slow murmurs, like conversations just beneath hearing level. One night, the walk-in freezer door creaked open on its own. I turned to shut it and found a fingerprint in the frost. Just one. Small. Like a child's. But no one had been in there that night. We don't allow kids back there, obviously. That was the same night the lights above the fryer blew out. No pop, no flash. Just went out, one by one. And in the dark, I swear, I felt breath on my neck. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I just stood there, frozen, until the hallway light flicked back on, and I saw my own reflection in the freezer glass. Wide-eyed, pale, not quite myself. I started leaving early after that. Let Caleb finish alone. I'd say I wasn't feeling well. He didn't ask questions. The last night I worked there, I stayed later than I meant to. Everyone else had already left. I told myself I'd be fine. It was just me and the fryer. I wiped down the surfaces, stacked the baskets, and stood there for a second, silent. And then, as clear as anything I've ever heard, right behind me, "Don't leave." I turned so fast, I nearly slipped. No one. But the fryer, it was on. Fully on. Boiling. Bubbling. I hadn't turned it on. We hadn't even used it that day. It had been off since lunch. The timer display was blinking. 003. 002 001. Then it stopped. No beep. Just off. I left. Didn't clock out. Didn't clean up. Just grabbed my bag and walked out into the cold night air. I never went back. I don't know what it was or why it picked me. But some nights I wake up and I swear I hear it again. That same whisper. Software right behind me. Calling my name. Story number 5. He ordered the wrong thing. It was a regular Tuesday evening, the kind of slow shift where time drips instead of ticks. I'd been working at KFC for a little over 4 months, mostly taking orders and cleaning tables. Nothing fancy, just routine. The dining area lights buzzed faintly overhead, flickering sometimes like they needed a second to catch up with the rest of the world. The floor was freshly mopped, leaving a faint smell of lemon mixed with fried oil. Around 8:15, a man walked in. Middle-aged, maybe mid-50s, tall but slouched like his frame had forgotten how to carry itself upright. He wore a dark coat that looked a size too large, and his eyes were dull, like they weren't focusing on anything in particular. He didn't look around, didn't glance at the menu board. He walked up to the counter and said, "Zinger box meal. No fries." I nodded, punched in the order, asked if he wanted a drink. He blinked once. No drink. I gave him his total, took his cash. The bills felt damp. Not wet exactly, just soft, like they'd been held for a long time. He took his receipt and walked to the last booth by the wall. Sat alone. No phone, no distractions. Just stared at the empty tray in front of him while I waited for his food to finish. I didn't think much of it at the time. People are strange sometimes. That's part of working behind a counter. You learn not to ask too many questions. But something about him stuck. Maybe it was the way he sat. So still, hands folded, back straight, like he was waiting for something more serious than a sandwich. When I brought over his tray, he didn't look up. I placed it down, and he whispered something under his breath. I couldn't make it out. I said, "Excuse me?" He blinked again. Nothing. Then he looked up at me. His eyes were gray, not light gray, flat, like the color of ash or old dust. I nodded politely and walked away. He didn't touch the food, just sat there. Another customer came in, then another. I got distracted ringing them up. When I looked back toward the booth, he was gone. Food, still untouched. Napkin, folded. Zinger box, sealed. Just gone. I walked over and picked up the tray. That's when I noticed something strange. There was a ketchup packet in the corner of the tray. It had been squeezed, just a little, and the red had smeared across the inside of the lid. It wasn't much, but it looked like something had been drawn. A shape, sort of like a letter, or maybe a symbol. It was smudged, like a finger had run through it. I didn't know what to make of it. I wiped the tray and tossed it in the bin. The next night he came in again. Same time, same coat, same order. Zinger box meal, no fries. I hesitated before punching it in. "You sure?" I asked. He paused, then quietly said, "I shouldn't have last time." I raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" He shook his head. "Doesn't matter." Paid in cash again. Same damp feel. Same distant stare. Sat in the same booth. Again didn't touch the food. Just stared at it. I left him alone. But I watched. Eventually, I noticed he was looking at the ketchup packet. Not opening it. Not moving. Just staring at it. Like he was waiting for it to do something. When I walked by to take out the trash, I heard him whisper something again. Clearer this time. Wrong choice. I froze for a second. He didn't look up. I kept walking. 15 minutes later, he was gone again. Food untouched. Another ketchup smear on the inside lid. Same shape. Same smudge. It felt colder in that booth. I cleaned up, slower this time. I didn't throw the packet away. I took it to the back and stuck it in a small plastic bag. Just felt like I shouldn't let it go. That night I dreamed of the man sitting in the booth, but the lights were off, and he wasn't facing me anymore. He was facing the wall, talking to it. I couldn't hear the words, only the soft hiss of him breathing. The next few nights he didn't show. I checked the door every few minutes, expecting him. Felt weird without him. But then on Saturday, just after 8:15, he returned. This time, he walked slower, more stiffly. Same order, same booth, same stillness. I brought over the food, and as I placed it down, I noticed something different. He was crying, not sobbing, just silent tears, rolling down without expression. His face didn't change, like the tears weren't his decision. He looked up at me, and for the first time, his eyes didn't seem so distant. They were focused, tired. "I ordered the wrong thing," he said. His voice was low, cracked, like he hadn't spoken in years. "I'm sorry?" He looked down. "It was supposed to be original recipe, not spicy." I nodded slowly. "We can change that." He shook his head. "It's too late now." He reached into his coat pocket and placed something on the table, a folded receipt. He pushed it toward me. Then he stood and walked out. Didn't take the food, didn't look back, just left. I picked up the receipt and unfolded it. It was from our store, but the date said March 9th, 1998. Same order, same name, Richard Hale. My hand trembled a little. The time stamp was 8:15 p.m. I took it to the back, sat down in the break room, and stared at it under the flickering light. Something was written on the back. He choked. I chose spicy. He couldn't breathe. I held him. He stopped moving. There was a faint red smear at the edge of the paper. Ketchup, probably. I don't know. I showed the manager the receipt the next day. He said it had to be fake. Someone messing with us. Thought I was overworked. Told me to toss it and forget about it. I didn't toss it. I still have it, tucked in the back of a drawer. The man never came back after that. Booth's empty every night. But sometimes, when I'm cleaning, I find a ketchup packet there. Still sealed, but the red is always smeared across the top. Sometimes, it forms a shape, a mark, like someone tried to undo something they can't take back. And the food? Still untouched, still waiting. Sometimes I wonder, what happens if someone orders the same thing by accident? Will they know? Will they feel the weight of it? Or will it all start over again? Story number 6. The basement light. I was working at a KFC downtown, older building, kind of worn around the edges, the kind of place that had gone through several managers and even more employees over the years. Most of us just did our shifts and went home. No one stuck around longer than they had to. I started working the evening shift a few months in, 4 p.m. to close. I didn't mind it. Less rush, more quiet time. Plus, I could walk home under the streetlights and let the noise of the city wind down around me. There was a door in the back hallway labeled Old Storage, Do Not Enter. It was just past the mop sink near the back exit. No one ever mentioned it. It was always locked. No one had a key, or at least no one ever admitted to it. We joke about it sometimes, calling it the tomb or the friar graveyard, stuff like that. But no one actually cared until I started noticing the light. It wasn't bright, just a faint glow from under the door, like someone had left a single bulb on down there. It flickered sometimes, barely visible under the edge of the door frame. I only saw it when I worked late, usually after 10, when the place had gone still, and the only sounds left were the low hum of the freezers and the soft scrape of mops against tile. I asked my supervisor about it once. Probably just a wiring thing, he said without looking up from the schedule. Basement's sealed anyway, nothing down there but junk and roaches. He sounded like he believed it. I tried to forget it. I really did. But once you notice something like that, it sticks in your head. A light where there shouldn't be one. A space that no one talks about. A place no one opens. One night, I stayed late to help close alone. The others had clocked out early, and I volunteered to finish up. The dining room lights were off, and only the kitchen lights remain. I was emptying the mop bucket near the back when I heard something, a soft clink, like metal tapping against tile. I paused, water still pouring into the sink. There it was again, clink, then a soft scrape. It was coming from behind the door. I froze. The light was on again, glowing from beneath the door. Steady this time, not flickering. I leaned closer, not touching it, just listening. There was a faint sound, like chopping, slow, rhythmic, like someone cutting through something dense. I backed up, told myself it was in my head, that maybe someone had used the room earlier and forgot to shut off the light. Or maybe there was a draft, or a rat chewing something. Still, I locked the back door, turned off the hallway lights, and left a little quicker than usual that night. I didn't sleep well. The next morning, I came in early, just to look. The light was gone. Door was still shut. No sound. No trace of anything. I asked one of the older employees, Larry, about it. He'd been there almost 10 years, which made him practically a fossil in fast food. He got quiet, then shrugged. Some stuff down there's been sealed since before corporate took over this location, he said. Used to be a diner before it was a KFC. Way back, maybe even something else before that. I asked why it was locked if no one used it. He just said, "Some places don't need to be opened again," then walked off. The next night, I stayed after close again. Curiosity had gotten under my skin. I brought a small flashlight from home, just in case. Around 10:45, I stood in front of the basement door. The light underneath was back. Still that same faint glow, and the sound. Chopping, but slower now. Heavier. I don't know what came over me, but I knelt down and looked through the tiny gap between the door and the floor. At first I couldn't see much, just concrete. Then something moved across the floor. It was the shadow of a hand, not a full shape. just the outline, pale fingers dragging something across the ground. I stood up quickly, heart thudding. Then I noticed something else. The lock on the door was old, rusty, but there was dust missing around the latch, like someone had been using it recently. I backed away and returned to the front, finishing cleanup with shaky hands. I didn't tell anyone, didn't want to sound crazy. A few nights later, I stayed late again. I didn't plan to, but the closer called in sick and I took their shift. Around 11:20, I walked by the hallway. No sound, no chopping, but the light was brighter, almost golden like warm lamplight. I stood there staring at it. Something felt different. I stepped closer, just a few feet, then the light blinked out. Instantly, total dark under the door. No fading, no flicker, just gone. I turned and walked away without looking back, but as I reached the kitchen, I heard it. The creak of the door behind me opening, just a hair, not all the way, just enough to let something look. I didn't turn around. I finished closing fast. Didn't even mop that night. The next morning, I came in and told the manager. I expected a laugh or maybe a shrug, but instead, he just sighed. Yeah, it happens every few years. Some of you hear it, some don't. Don't go near it. I asked what it was. He didn't answer, just handed me a list of things to stock and walked off. I haven't stayed late since, and no one talks about the door anymore. But sometimes when I walk past that hallway during the day, I glance toward it. The door's always shut. But there's something about that wood, like it's listening, waiting. And once, just last week, I came in for the morning shift. The hallway light was off, but the basement door, it was open an inch. And there, just inside the frame, was a single greasy apron hung neatly on the wall, one we don't use anymore. It was clean, pressed, ready. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more quiet but haunting horror stories just like this. And hey, check out the other videos appearing on your screen right now, if you dare. Got a creepy experience of your own? Share it in the comments below. We're always reading. Stay safe out there.